If any of you guys have an old Ford 5000, and I believe a 4000 has the same thing, you will know that it is extremely difficult to use the emergency brake function. This is my 1968 Ford 5000. This is a gas job. I'll show you guys what I mean. This is the e-brake down here. Basically, you pull this up, turn it, and that holds your brake. It's a little dog with gears on it. Pretty straightforward. However, it's hard to reach from the operator's seat. Okay, so here I am aboard this tractor. You know, I can reach the shifter, the gear knobs, pretty much everything I need to reach right here. PTO, 3-point hitch, all this good stuff is easy to get to. However, the only thing that I don't like is that in order to set this parking brake, you got to bend way over and reach down here to make this operate. And that's an awful design in my opinion. It's kind of uncomfortable to get to. So I want to make that a little easier to reach and to use and release. That doesn't get in the way or anything like that. It's out of the way enough to where you can still use your high and low ranges without having an issue. But whenever you want to park the tractor, all you gotta do is just turn that knob. How easy is that? Oh, that is so awesome. So there's no more reaching way down here. They should have done this from the factory. I don't know why they ever would have done that. That's kind of dumb. But this is great. This is a good improvement. And I got the cool golf ball on there that I've been saving for a lot of years. So I'm happy with that. I think that's excellent. So this is what we have to work with. We have this shaft right here, which sticks out of the foot pedal. And as you can see there, it transitions into that 1/4-inch rod and holds that little spur gear. So anyway, I think what I'm going to do by looking at this, I'm going to weld some material to this that comes straight up so that the knob will be, I'll have like a knob on there so I can turn that instead of having to bend way over. I'll leave this, but I'll just weld something on the end of that to extend it. And I'll use maybe these holes here. I'll take these bolts out and utilize a hole there to make like a nice bracket to hold that. I'll show you guys as I go. So I'm just going to kind of first loosely draw some of the obstructions that we're going to run into. And just kind of make a, I don't know, make something. We don't really have anything to work with here, so we're just kind of starting from scratch. So maybe I'll cut a little more of that out. Now you can see I've got the brake pedal released. You can kind of see what I've got in mind here. I'm going to have a hole there. This material is going to pass through the hole, and then you're going to have like a knob up here. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be gravy. I don't know why they didn't do this from the factory. I'm going to go find a piece of metal to make this out of. So I just put those bolts in temporarily, and that's a really nice looking bracket. I could have probably just used one. It would have been fine, but what's the fun of that? I want to make something industrial, something that looks like it would have been made at the dealership. So that doesn't get in the way at all. You know, I could trim that down so it's even closer to the transmission, but I think that'll be just ideal. If I make that nice and radiused, it won't hurt if you hit your foot against it. So I just found a nice piece of 3/16 that I have left over from my rim project whenever I rebuilt the rims. And that looks like it could be very promising. That would look pretty nice. Nice and sturdy, nice and thick. So messing with this just a little bit, I think I'm going to move this back a little bit, this piece here, just back, because I don't want to deal with having my foot hit this all the time. This is just a piece of metal I found kicking around. This is like an old tent stake or something like that. But basically this is a really nice piece of zinc plated mild steel. So this is very easily weldable. And I'm just kind of thinking about using this. Okay, so here's rendition 2.0. I realize that this is going to have to go back and forth as you apply this brake. This thing is on a hinge, so it can't just be a hole that takes it up and down. So basically, I'm going to make a new one of these. Okay, so I've changed my design a few times. Going through my junk drawer, I actually found an old swivel socket that swivels. It's pretty handy. However, this is an oddball. I don't have anything in my set that this matches. I've got a complete set of these anyways. But I'm thinking I might weld that because this thing has to pivot. And instead of making something like this that will move and it will rattle and it'll do all kinds of nonsense, I'm thinking why not weld that there, weld this through here, and then I can push this back. So ultimately what I mean by that is whenever this pedal goes down, I can get this away from the pedal more, something like that. And then this thing can be free to spin and do whatever it's got to do because of the swivel socket. So I think that's the direction I'm going to go in. And also, what's more, I think I might take and make myself a custom ball for this thing. I think that'll be kind of cool. I'll just epoxy it on there. This is from one of the local resorts in the area. So anyway, I think that'll be kind of cool. A cool piece of history on there. And a good use for some of this old junk that I've been collecting over these years. First things first, I gotta get all the chrome off of this socket so it can be welded. And it's gonna be a slick setup. Just in case anyone was curious, this is a Black Hawk, which is actually pretty good. So it's almost a shame to waste this. But yeah, it volunteered its services readily. So anyway, it's going to be the first part of this. Okay, so there we have it. You saw me there at the end cooling this down slowly. I don't want to ruin the swivel mechanism. So anyway, that's welded up really nice. Now I'm going to work on welding this to the tractor. Okay, so there it is, guys. This is married to that linkage for a while. Now, I welded it in place just because I didn't want to take it out. And it's kind of a pain in the butt. But anyways, now I can get working on this bracket. Now that I can, this doesn't have to be anywhere. This could be positioned anywhere. So this is free to move wherever it's going to move. So let me modify my bracket now. I might, because I like having this foot. This brake works pretty good, having this ability to use these brakes individually whenever you're not trammed together. You know, like if you want to use one or the other. I don't want to have this foot always hitting up against that, so I might move that back just a little bit. Okay, so here we are, attempt number 3 at making this bracket. Now, I like the positioning already of where that handle is. Even though I didn't do as great of a job cutting this one out, the idea is still the same. Now we can kind of, it's hard to do this with one hand and with cardboard. I'm trying not to tear it, but I like that much better. And that'll put the position of the knob kind of better in line with the shifters. So I'm happy with that. So once it's not being used, it'll be out of the way. And that'll be really nice. Alright, so I gotta get working on this bracket. I know some people are gonna say that I ruined the swivel extension by welding it, but look at that. I mean, it still stays, you can see that. It still stays in the position that you leave it. I mean, obviously if you go past center where it's balancing, it'll fall over, but if you keep that cool, that thing will survive just fine. This is more of that 3/16 mild steel that I had left over from the rim project, and it looks like that's going to work just fine. Maybe I should go like that. So check this out. To cut out all that plate metal, I'm not going to do that by hand. I was in Harbor Freight, of all places, and this thing was in the open box display for 95 bucks. So I said, you know, that's a good deal. I'd be crazy to pass that up. So I bought some of the blades that they had, and this thing has been a solid performer. Pretty cool unit for 95 bucks. And it was open, the box was open, but it's like, there's nothing wrong with it. It works great. So there we are. That power hacksaw or bandsaw does extremely well. That's 3/16 too, and that was cutting that like nothing. You know, you just kind of have to have some coolant there and one hand spray while you're cutting, and those blades are just as cool as a cucumber. And that's how you keep the life of those blades up. Okay, so after, I don't know, half an hour with a grinder, using the rough stone and the coarse stone, I got this thing taking shape pretty good. That bandsaw really is a game changer. And now look, I've got a bunch of random gussets that I can use in future projects. I won't even have to cut them for anything. So yeah, definitely worth the money to get one of those things. We'll see how long it holds up. So the only thing I have to do now is drill the holes. And after I've done all this work, I don't want to drill the holes in the wrong spot. So I'll show you guys a trick. So I'm just taking and marking this hole with paint. These paint markers work pretty good for this. And the idea is I'm going to transpose this ring, if it works, on the back of this. Now, let's see, worst case scenario is I have white on my blue tractor. I'm just trying to rock this back and forth ever so slightly. Close. Very close. Close enough to make a template. Or a center punch so I can drill. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to accentuate that center mark with a drill bit, smaller drill bit, and then I'm going to come over to the drill press, because this is a 1/2 inch. I'm just going to do that in one drill. So these are 7/16 bolts, and I had to drill a 1/2 inch hole. I couldn't find a 7/16 drill bit. And all the old assorted drill bits that I have, I guess it's just kind of an uncommon size. Anyways, I'm going to use this big inch bit. This is a 15/16. I'm going to use this bit to do a deburr. Do need to invest in some good deburring tools. And this works, but it doesn't leave the best of finishes. That's good enough. Here it is, guys. And you know, I really wish I could have found that 7/16 bit, because these are just perfectly on center. And that would have just made it all that much tighter, you know, because it is what it is. I got to get a milling machine, and I've also got to get a better selection of drill bits. But anyway, there it is, guys. The painstaking process of making something custom. But it looks really nice, in my opinion. So now all I have to do is drill the hole for the new e-brake shaft. Here it is, guys. I don't know what is going on with me today, but I can't drill a correct hole to save my life. So anyway, I thought that was 3/8, but it must be a metric size. I should have just checked it with my calipers, but I was just kind of in a hurry. And anyway, now all I've got to do is get this golf ball drilled out. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to, before I drill this the wrong size, I'm going to drill with a scrap piece of wood just to make sure that it's a good press fit. And I'm actually going to epoxy this on. So I'm going to paint this all up before I glue that, and then that'll be the last thing I do. Alright, looks like it's 305 thousandths. So, here's a 3/8. That's 370 thousandths. Here's a 5/16. That is like, actually that's pretty darn close. That's showing, well, let's measure the shoulder here, not the threads. That's 310 thousandths. Okay, so I thought that was, apparently that's 5/16. So I might try tapping this. Because if I ever want to take this thing apart, I don't want to have a glued on ball on the end of that. I was just thinking. Okay, so I got that threaded nice. I tried a 5/16. It just wouldn't go. This diameter was just a little too much for hand threading. So I ended up using a metric 8 by 1.25. I have a metric 8 tap, so I can tap that golf ball. And I don't know if this will actually tap. I'm going to try it. If not, I'll have to make a handle with an 8 by 1.25 thread. But anyway, so that's ready for the next bead. I was just thinking, all these handles are threaded. Why not make this one threaded? Just to kind of add to a little bit of the originality, even though this is not original. Okay, according to my handy-dandy thread chart here, metric 8 by 1.25, a cutting tap is 263 thousandths, call it 264 thousandths. A forming tap is 290 thousandths. So I don't have a ton of drill bits. I got to get more drill bits, guys. That's one thing. I got to get a really good drill index. I got these old random drill bits. So anyway, I've got a 1/4 inch here, which is 250 thousandths. I'm going to try this first with a metric 8 tap, and then we'll go from there. So I machined a recess, and that's just enough for that golf ball to sit there. So that'll hold it, you know, secure while I'm drilling it. And we'll just have to pick a spot and drill. All right, so if we measure the diameter of this ball, we've got, for measurement's sake, let's just say, just for ease of calculating, 1.75. All right, so half of 1.75, let's see, half of 1 is half. Half of 3/4 is 3/8. So half plus 3/8. So 4/8, 5/8, 6/8. So that would be 7/8 of an inch. Okay, so 7/8 of an inch. All right, so I'm going to set my drill with a piece of tape to only go down 7/8 of an inch. Well, maybe I had to go a little bit more than that. A little more than halfway. We'll try 7/8 first. Okay, so that's right around 7/8 of an inch. Just that way we won't overshoot and drill through the thing. I'll give it a shot. So this is what was in there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but like this is just like, I don't know. It doesn't seem very dense. So we'll try tapping it and see what happens. So it doesn't appear that the substance inside this golf ball is going to hold a thread. And I'm severely undersized, you know, by like 10 thousandths with my tap that I'm using. It's supposed to, the drill is supposed to be quite a bit bigger. But I'm going to try it. It might make a cool knob, but worst case scenario, it doesn't work and we've ruined a golf ball. Well, guys, I didn't think it would work, but this works perfectly because the center of that is almost gummy. What happens is as you thread this on, you know, I have a pair of vice grips on here to hold the base while I thread this. While you thread that on, it actually grabs really, really well. And because I use an underside drill bit, so check this out. That works like perfectly. So I'm happy with that. I think what I'm going to do now is take it all apart, paint it, and I'll be done. I'll have the coolest parking brake on a Ford 5000 that there has ever been. I got it all painted up. I used some Tisco, some of the Ford Empire Blue. I've used that whenever I redid the front end and everything, and whenever I made my bumper guard here, that Ford Empire Blue works pretty darn good. Now, you might be asking, why didn't I just paint the rest of all the other rusty stuff? Well, it's all covered in grease and everything, and this is kind of an impromptu thing. I wasn't really going to paint it, because I still have to get this out and pressure wash it and degrease it before I touch up, you know, some of the other spots. But I was just anxious to get this done. I'll show you guys how this works. This is incredible. I love this. Alright, so now when you're on the tractor, that doesn't get in the way or anything like that. It's out of the way enough to where you can still use your high and low ranges without having an issue. But whenever you want to park the tractor, all you gotta do is just turn that knob. How easy is that? Oh, that is so awesome. So there's no more reaching way down here. They should have done this from the factory. I don't know why they ever would have done that. That's kind of dumb. But this is great. This is a good improvement. And I got the cool golf ball in there that I've been saving for a lot of years. So I'm happy with that. I think that's excellent. Awesome. Let me just give you guys a close-up of this mechanism at work. See how well that swivel function works? And if this thing really starts rattling around and driving me nuts, what I'll do is I'll just take this back apart and I'll put a rubber bushing in there, you know, just to kind of help it from rattling around too much. But I don't think it's going to bother. I think that's going to be perfect. So this way, I've retained all the factory parts and pieces. So if I ever have to take this off again, I can do it. Just take that snap ring off and then this thing will come right out like it was intended to from the factory. And now that I've got this on threads, instead of having epoxy, I can take this apart, you know, if I ever going to take the step off or whatever. So this is great. So I'm going to use this and see how it works in the field, and I'm thinking this is going to be an awesome fix. I don't know why they didn't do this from the factory or have something like this. In fact, I think I've seen some Ford tractors that came from the factory with something similar to this. I got to do some more research, but I just kind of had this idea. Maybe it's been done already, I don't know. But I think it's a great solution.